Turn right on Joyce Road. In 3/4 of a mile, turn right on River Street.
On that front, I more or less feel like if I encounter somebody, they're probably going to be upset, and especially if there aren't a large number of them, actually I could probably talk to them and get somewhere. On the other hand, given what people think is true about me and what they think the rules are with respect to what they're therefore entitled to do, I don't know. I really don't know what could happen.
Wow. Well, what can be done, or what should be done about some of the, I don't want to use the term crazy, but some of the more rambunctious students that are a part of this? I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to just change their behavior and go back to just...
In 1,000 feet, turn right, then keep left.
being a normal, inquisitive young person trying to figure out the world. It's like they're so embroiled in this ideology. It seems, and they've given them so much ground. It's like, how do you stop this?
Turn right on River Street. Then keep left to Auburndale Avenue.
And when you've held the fucking president hostage and told him he can't go to the bathroom without representatives of your militant group watching him pee, where does it go from there?
Well, I should say, what I said, I don't know, 5-10 minutes ago, probably sounded a little utopian. I'm not a utopian. I think a utopia might be the worst idea.
Keep left to Auburndale Avenue. In half a mile, keep left to Camden Road.
So what I'm saying should be
The
understood.
worst? Worse than the
close.
Holocaust?
Well, I mean, the Holocaust was utopian.
I guess.
It was, right? That was the idea. So yes, I think that...
But most people think of utopian as like some moment in time where we all sort of like, oh, what are we doing? Let's work together. Let's all be nice.
Right, well, people, I mean, utopia...
They have utopian ideas of utopia.
Yes, they have very practical ideas. They think they know enough about the way things work to describe a good state for things to reach, and they tend to focus on one thing that they want to make better and ignore all of the harms.
In 1,000 feet, keep left, then turn right.
They engage in it. So anyway, I'm not a utopian, and what I'm about to say about what could happen at Evergreen is not utopian in nature. But I do think Evergreen as you described earlier, is really the tip of something. What happened at Evergreen is so extreme, and the way it looks to the world is...
Keep left to Camden Road, then turn right on Walcott Street.
Preposterous that I do hope that the Academy is hitting bottom. That in seeing this...
Turn right on Walcott Street. In 1/4 of a mile, turn left on Lexington Street.
preview of where these things go if they are allowed to evolve of their own accord, that people will wake up and they will realize, actually, as hard as it is to challenge this stuff, we have to do it, because if we don't, this is what happens. Now, that said, on our campus, if we get rid of...
Turn left on Lexington Street. Then use the right lane to keep right to Commonwealth Avenue.
A few bad actors, starting with the president, and we recognize that we have ended up in some new landscape where up is down, it is also possible that we could find a new kind of common ground. So,
do you think you could find a new common ground with these students that are screaming in the streets, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, these racist teachers have got to go"?
I know this is going to sound crazy, and some people are not going to understand why. When my family and students have been threatened, I would even talk like this. And to be honest, I understand why they would say that. But the difference is, can you talk to them in a small group of people where they could be reached? Because indeed many of them are reachable. Or do you have...
Isn't it also a problem in that when people dig their heels into the sand and they decide this is how things are, and then even when confronted with the possibility they may have been incorrect or wrong or acted irrationally, it's very difficult for people to admit that and reconcile and step back and maybe just self-assess?
Somebody has to blaze the trail. In other words, I find myself accidentally in the position of blazing a particular trail of how do you stare down an accusation of racism.
So someone from that side has to blaze a trail.
Somebody from
Someone
that
else
side.
to realize, hey, Brett is the opposite of racist. We're being silly here. We all have a common enemy, and a common enemy is real racism.
Ah, good. And, this is why I said, recognizing that you have been involved in a witch hunt, that's the moment at which, you either level up or you don't. When you realize you've been engaged in a witch hunt, that's the moment at which you can discover...
Use the right lane to keep right. Then turn right on Commonwealth Avenue. Turn right on Commonwealth Avenue. In 3/4 of a mile. Turn left on I-95 South, Providence.
Something fundamental that's wrong in my program somewhere that allowed that to happen.
Maybe that would be a subject that someone could teach as a course, like how campus ideology goes amok.
Absolutely. How things go amok. In fact, it's not exactly that, and it was planned long before this protest erupted, but I'm scheduled next spring to teach with another professor a program on essentially the evolutionary origins of human violence.
So when you think about everything coming, do you have like a vision in your mind about how everything would the dust will settle and this president hopefully will either resign or be forced out? And then what do you do with these students that you looked at in the end? They were screaming at you, calling you a racist, telling you to resign. Like, how do you deal with that when you go back?
In 1,000 feet, use the left lane to turn left. Then continue straight.
School.
Well, if they were willing to listen, I could deal with it. The thing that is, I think, hard to appreciate from the outside a little bit is that because I know that there's nothing to the accusation, and because so many students know that there's nothing to the accusation, it doesn't hurt in the same way that it would.
Turn left. Then use the right lane to continue to I-95 South, Providence.
If I had serious doubts about myself in this regard. So if they were to come around, we could make it happen. That said, that's not the direction things are going. As of this morning, the internal list of the faculty and staff was headed in exactly the wrong direction.
What is the list? Like, what are they trying to do?
Well, they imagine that this entire catastrophe, including the closing of the campus yesterday and today, is the result of I think it was 6 minutes I spent on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, you got on Fox News. You summoned the demon.
I mean, those airwaves are immoral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have they literally said that you should not have gone on Fox News?
Oh, that's beyond that. Their point is...
What is this? Here we go. Evergreen State faculty demand punishment of white professor who refused to leave on anti-white day. Oh, it's anti-white day. That's even more interesting.
Yeah.
The letter came out today. It might have came out since we started the podcast, too. I'm not sure when this hit.
What is it? TheCollegeFix.com?
Yeah, I mean, this is describing what's in the letter, the contents of the letter right here. I've been tweeted it a few times.
Just make that a little larger for me. We acknowledge that all of us have power within the institution, who have power within the institution share responsibility for the racist actions of others. Furthermore, those of us who are white bear a particularly large share of that responsibility. Oh God. We acknowledge that we have a great deal of work to do in order to honor and live up to the demands made by the student leaders. Oh, the students are leaders.
Oh yeah.
They're leaders. Like how in Yale, the students that stared down the professor and physically threatened him, they were given awards. Wasn't one of them like given some sort of an acknowledgement of like being a leader? We'll find that. Jamie will find that. We acknowledge we have a great deal of work to do in order to honor and live up to the demands made by the student leaders during last week's protests. We acknowledge that students of color and others who are underrepresented and underserved have been voicing their demands to us for some time through the Students of Color Focus Groups of 2014, through their participation in anchoring the Strategic Equity Plan for November in Cooper Point Journal, blah, 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 and we have not yet truly listened and acted. We acknowledge the students' right to protest and affirm President Bridges' recent decision not to use the misguided language of the current student conduct. What is that? Current student conduct code to punish the protesters? What is the language of the current student conduct code?
A, hell if I know, but B, I believe what they're talking about is the president said that students would not be held accountable for disrupting my class, and then I believe he agreed to their demand for student authority over any changes to the conduct code. So these students who are engaged in this, I hope this is right, I don't want to say something that's untrue, but my understanding was that he agreed to that demand.
We vehemently reject the claim that students have been violent simply because they have been loud and emphatic. There is a difference between exercising the right to freely voice an opinion and inciting violence. And that difference has nothing to do with the volume or forcefulness. That's not true, because they were upset that he was moving his hands. Right. They were calling that aggression. And now they're saying that, on the other hand, children can scream. I'm calling children from now on. We support the demands made by students and honor the positive institutional change they have already achieved through their protests. That's hilarious. Our most urgent demands below center on the safety of those individuals who are currently most at risk. Like the professor. At the same time, we acknowledge that in weeks and months to come, our attention will need to turn to the larger structural issues students have identified. In solidarity with students, we commit ourselves to participating actively and self-critically in the annual mandatory trainings specified in the Memorandum of Understanding recently signed by the UFE stand for?
That's our union, United Faculty of Evergreen.
And management bargaining teams, holding each other accountable when we act in racist ways against our colleagues or our students. Okay, well then why don't you hold yourself accountable that you acquiesce to a fucking anti-white day? That's racist.
Right, but what's going to happen here is this is going to be intolerable re-education by people who, frankly, it pains me to say it, but they're the most racist people on the campus. I mean, that's what this is. This is
right.
Racism. It just happens to be in an unfamiliar direction, but it's racism. And they also are going to be in charge of sensitivity training here, which, to me, is the height of insanity.
So scroll up a little bit. In solidarity with students, we call for the Evergreen, this way, administration to center student perspectives in a persistent media approach. Well, gobbledygook approach to counter the alt-right narratives that are demonizing Evergreen. Okay, do you have an alt-right movement at Evergreen?
If I read that correctly, I am now in the alt-right.
Oh, you're an alt-righter.
I guess so.
Are demonizing Evergreen and Day of Absence specifically. Wow. Persistent media approach. What is the that you going on Tucker Carlson? That must be it.
Yeah.
So we have to break this down like it's code. Like we're not even speaking English. We're reading fucking hieroglyphs here. Persistent media approach. Persistent media approach.
Oh yeah.
Am I alt-right? I might be.
You are now.
I might be. People think I am because I've had alt-right people on. They just decide. But then conveniently, when I have liberals on, I'm a fucking raging liberal. God damn it. Take seriously the threats made to the individual community members. Oh, aren't you an individual community member?
I think you're about to get to me here.
Use available institutional resources to protect them. Demonstrate accountability by pursuing a disciplinary investigation against Brett Weinstein. According to guidelines in the social contract and faculty handbook, Weinstein has endangered faculty, staffs, and students, making them targets of white supremacist backlash by promulgating misinformation in public emails, on national television, in news outlets, and on social media. That is a very, very broad... You should sue.
That's a hell of a bullet point, huh?
You should sue, just for that.
Yep.
You have endangered faculty, staff, and students. But see, the problem with that statement is, someone can just read that now and use that as a quote and just start saying that as if it's fact.
Well, let's just deal with this for a second.
Yes,
can
please,
we?
please.
Okay. So that is a very interesting bullet point. The fact is, I have gone on media. Media has come to me. What I have done is I have pointed to videos that the protesters themselves put up that caused the world to say, what the hell is going on in Evergreen? And this has resulted, the entire thing has unfolded. I've been fighting this for a year, trying to point out to my colleagues that they were making terrible errors. This is all the result of reforms put in motion by President Bridges. So they are now blaming me. And I should say, I do think there is jeopardy on the campus. We had a threat yesterday from somebody. I have no idea how serious it was, but I do believe that there's jeopardy to people on our campus.
What specifically was the threat? Was it a threat from a white supremacist group? Was it a threat from a pro-protester group? Like,
it wasn't specific, but so all I can say is that I got what I was told was a transcript of the call. I cannot vouch for it because I don't have access to, somebody could be promulgating a hoax. I don't know. But what it said was that they were coming to campus, I think with a Magnum, and they were going to kill as many as they could, is what they said. They do?
We can play the audio? Okay. Put your headphones on. Let's listen. Let's hear it.
Dispatch.
Hello?
Hello, dispatch. Can I help you?
Yes, I'm on my way to Evergreen University now with a 44 Magnum. I'm going to execute as many people on that campus as I can get a hold of. You have that? What's going on there? You communist scumbag town? I'm going to murder as many people on that campus as I can.
Sir.
Just keep your eyes open, scumbag.
Okay.
Sir.
First of all, A, that guy's full of shit.
Yep.
B, he's an amateur.
Right.
Because 44 Magnum only holds 6 rounds, mostly, maybe 5. Might even be 5 rounds, or is that a Desert Eagle? That guy's a bullshit artist. 44 Magnum. You don't specify the round that you're going to use.
Nor does that weapon make any sense. But,
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the point is,
He's Dirty Harry.
you think so? Yeah, right. It's, but I don't want to belittle people's jeopardy.
Right.
I have to say
I agree.
that
he might have been crazy, and he might have actually been really wanting to do that. He could have done
right, and it could happen.
For sure.
And I think the jeopardy to people on campus is real, and I live right adjacent to campus, and I must tell you, I brought my family with me because I don't feel that they are safe there at the moment. The question is, how is it that we have reached the point of deciding that this jeopardy is from me?
That's horrific. What they've done is so irresponsible in releasing that and making it public. It's so irresponsible and so silly that they don't realize that other people are going to see through that so clearly.
Well, many
misinformation and like what? Misinformation? What specifically? They should be very specific. When they accuse you of misinformation, they should be very specific. If they're going so far as to say that you are in somehow or another summoning the alt-right and making misinformation public on mass media, what is that misinformation?
Well, I know because I've been watching the email traffic.
Right.
So their claim is that white people were not asked to leave campus, that there were only 200 spaces in the venue off campus, and therefore this was just supposed to be for a small subset of people, which is nonsense. there were only 200 spaces if you wanted to go to the particular seminars that they were holding, for example, the one about why Asians were part of the problem.
So they had a seminar on Asians being a problem.
Or a presentation of some kind.
That is really racist.
I believe so. But in any case, they are conflating the 200 spaces off campus with what was actually expected of us. And it was quite clear. In fact, one of my staff colleagues put out an email, boy, time has gone into some weird thing, but I think it was last night, in which he detailed the several emails that we had seen in which the school did ask white people to leave for that day. So they are promoting falsehoods themselves designed to obscure what's going on, I think because they finally understood that the world doesn't get what they were doing.
Well, do they not understand that this is a trail that's going to be released? Like, that this is actual data, and that this data, when they accuse you of misinformation, and then you have all of this data, and then you can just, like, release it to everybody, like, hey, this is the actual emails. Clearly, this contradicts what you're saying. It makes you a liar.
Right.
Use the left 4 lanes to continue on exit 26, I-93 North, US 1 North, Boston, hold exit 12. In 2.9 miles. Take exit 4, State Route 24 South, Fall River.
Several people, in fact many people, have now started to refer to what's going on in the staff-faculty zone here as a cult. And I think, on the one hand, that could be tongue-in-cheek. On the other hand, the mechanisms at work that have people doubling down on absurdities rather than trying to get on the right side of history as quickly as possible, it is very cult-like. And again, you asked me what would have to happen for us to right the ship. The second one is that my faculty colleagues have to wake up to the fact that their belief structure has become bizarre and unrecognizable from any normal position.
And very dangerous from the perspective of an educator. If this is what an educated person who's gone through the entire system and now has a job in educating young people, if this is how you view the world, and this is how you view facts, and this is how you distort them, and then disseminate them to the rest of these like-minded folks in this very bizarre echo chamber that's being rejected, like almost universally, outside of the college. I mean, it's not just Fox News it's rejecting, it's the Washington Post, it's the New York Times. Like, people are freaking out about your situation and recognize very clearly and very rightly that you are absolutely not a racist.
Right.
And this is, this is kind of a lot of what I said to Jordan Peterson when I had him on. Like, they fucked with the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they fucked with the wrong person. And this is one of the most horrific things about what I find so troubling about what I think of as, I used to think of myself as a progressive, but what I have a problem with all of this is that the left is attacking itself now. It's like there's no one who's progressive enough. No one. Like, every single thing you do is a microaggression. Every single thing you do is based on white privilege, and therefore you're racist. And unless you somehow or another give up all your money and give up all your jobs, and there are people who are asking to do that too, by the way. There's people who are asking people to give their money and put them in black banks, give them to black people. I mean, we're going crazy.
This is literally, it's not an individual psychosis, but it's a collective psychosis that we're watching. And I believe that in literal terms. We are watching a kind of group insanity.
Is this a problem with language? Is this a problem with influence and charisma and people's ability to sort of change the way others view the world with dramatic interpretation?
In half a mile. Use the right 2 lanes to exit right. Exit right to exit 4, State Route 24 South, Fall River. Exit right to exit 22A, I-495 South, Cape Cod, hold exit 14A.
invitations of events and things like emails, where this is not a one-on-one debate. There's a real problem with blogs and emails, and I've talked about this several times, but it's worth repeating. There's a real problem when someone writes something like that specifically about another person like you, and just writes it, but you're not there to respond. So they can write as much stuff that's not true. And they can put it all down, and then it's there. And then someone has to refute it, but it's still there. So you don't even get to refute the actual document. You write your own, and then someone has to go and read that at a different location. It's a real weird way to distribute information, and it's contrary to the way human beings rationally discuss and debate ideas.
Well, I would say there are many rules that are written into the way we interact now that make it possible for this to happen. So there was an instance where a faculty member accused those that were challenging any of these equity proposals as being part of a racist backlash, and she was clearly talking about me because I'm the most prominent person objecting.
Is this faculty member a white person?
No. So anyway, she says in a faculty meeting that this is a racist backlash, and I said to her in front of this faculty meeting, I said, somebody might want to check on the question of whether or not I'm actually a racist, because if you do check on it, you will discover I'm not, and if you don't, this is going to blow up on you.
Watch out, vehicle on shoulder ahead.
And the chair of the faculty told me that the faculty meeting was not the place to defend myself against accusations of racism. I said to her, that's fine.
It's also not the place to
level?
level
the accusations. But I said, where is the place? And then the faculty member who had made the accusations said, you should not expect there to be a venue in which to defend yourself. You should just get used to these accusations. In a separate case, I was told...
What? Who said that? A white guy or...
No, it's the same faculty member who made the accusation.
Wait a minute. The person said that you should just accept these untrue accusations.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
what was your reaction to that? That this is not a place for you to defend yourself against racist accusations. This is a place for you to just eat shit.
Right. You just have to accept these accusations. On a separate occasion, we were also told that that to question an allegation of racism is racist.
Oh.
So,
how convenient.
Yeah, try to wrap your mind around that one.
To question an accusation of racism is racist.
Right, we have an obligation to believe them.
Wow.
I know.
Wait a minute. That's crazy. That is such stupid back-ass words thinking.
It's what the cult mentality sounds like inside. It doesn't understand that when you say that to an outsider, it simply doesn't add up.
Or it's creating a structure that makes it impossible to defend yourself because these accusations are so preposterous that they realize that they have to have some sort of a bizarro world structure.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. So what does this person teach?
They teach media. So they teach...
How ironic.
Right. They teach media. They are currently running a program where she's teaching students to make documentaries, and that program, one of the students in the program filed a public records request. Since we are a public college, you can request the emails of faculty and staff if you want them. And so she had a student file a public records request for my email to make a documentary in her program. So you've got one faculty member searching another faculty member's email through a student looking for evidence of I don't know what, but...
evidence of racism.
Well, presumably.
Yeah, God.
Yes.
What little half of a sentence she's going to cut out of context with a few dots
exactly.
afterwards.
I mean, in fact, if you can separate my letters from each other and reorganize them, I could have said all kinds of things.
Well, I think you should have a student ask for the emails that came from her. I bet they'd be wonderful.
They could be very interesting.
Oh, I bet they'd be wonderful. If she's telling you that you shouldn't have a venue to defend yourself and you should just accept the fact that you're going to be called a racist, the idea that she can call you a racist in a meeting, but you defending yourself against racism is not, it's not the place for that.
It's not the place for that. And in fact, this whole exchange took place with the president of the college and the provost sitting there
And what
silently.
Silently.
Didn't say a word.
Did he move his hands?
That's a really good question. I don't remember him moving his hands. I do remember him not releasing an email after that meeting saying that, in fact, accusations of racism without evidence will not be tolerated.
Yeah, well, that's pretty goddamn important. It's really pretty goddamn important, and you just can't there's certain hot topics that you just got to leave alone when someone levels an accusation. This is the current progressive mindset, the current PC gone awry mindset.
Yeah,
it's fucking crazy.
Crazy.
We're all even. We're all human. That's it. I don't give a shit where you're from. I don't care if your ancestors are from one part of the planet or right next door. It does not matter. It's who you are. And as soon as you try to gain some sort of a leverage position because of the fact that you think that you have suffered more oppression in your family's ancestral history, we're way off track. We're way off track. The track should be equality today. That should be where we're all on this. And as soon as someone says, you're a racist, but you can't defend yourself, well, then we don't have equality anymore, man. You're trying to have anti-equality in order to bring equality to people that have been treated unethically? Is that what it is?
You're absolutely right. It's structural inequity, which is the irony of the whole thing, is that people who were wrapped in the flag of equity, I challenged them because I believe in actual equity, and I was accused of being a racist for doing it.
Well, it also sounds like intellectual poverty, too. It's like the actual structure of the thoughts that they're presenting are so poorly worded, and so it's so poorly thought out, and you're not allowed to defend against it.
Well, that's what I was saying about the difference in assumptions and beliefs between the postmodern disciplines and, dare I say, the actual disciplines. In the postmodern disciplines, the illogic of those arguments doesn't matter because logic isn't a thing; it's a tool of oppression.
Well, that's a cute way to just throw a monkey wrench into the gears. Clank.
That's exactly what it is.
And what do they want to achieve out of this? They just want to achieve all black professors and all white people on their knees as slaves. I mean, what is the ultimate goal? You know, just people running around fetching power adapters?
Yeah, I mean, I have to, again, I want to be really careful. Most people of color, most black people, hold no truck with this.
Right.
They don't want this, but a tiny number who do want this, or maybe think they want it until they see what it looks like, are writing the narrative, and that can't be. They're going to undo the civil rights movement, and that can't be allowed.
Well, not only that, the real problem with any of this really crazy shit is that it gives fuel to actual racists, and then it makes actual racists think that these people that are involved in these protests, as misguided as they are, it makes them think that, see, look, we told you that these people are bad. See, look, we told you that there's a reason why they're inferior. And it just, as soon as you open the door to that, like, you have real problems.
Yeah, this plays right into the cartoonish fantasies of the absurd left that the right believes in, which is a tragedy.
It is a tragedy.
But I will say there's a positive outgrowth of this, I think, which is if I look in my various inboxes at the stuff that's coming in from people that I've never heard of before, this wake-up call is uniting people across every known fault line. So I'm getting letters from religious people, from very conservative people, from very progressive people. Every known fault line is cut by this, and people are galvanized by seeing something that doesn't fit any narrative they've seen before. That is to say, staring down an accusation like this is not common. Watching it stared down and the world not fall apart is encouraging. And then, you mentioned it yourself, to have the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times on the same page about this, that's pretty interesting. So I do hope that what emerges from this is that all of the coalitions that exist will look at themselves and will recognize that they have, maybe not every coalition has a noble part, but all of the ones that have a noble part will understand that it's paired with something that isn't noble. And I'm hoping that people who find themselves ill-served by the narrative will join together, and that basically a coalition of the reasonable might emerge.
Well, that's a beautiful hope. And I share that hope with you. I mean, I really hope that what's happening is that in these insulated environments of these universities and colleges where things just get crazy, that when word leaks out that they get crazy, it's very much like cults. When you hear about Jonestown, you're like, hey man, don't drink the fucking Kool-Aid, something's going on down there. But these group mindsets that people fall into, oftentimes when you're in the hive and you're in the middle of it, it can all be very, very confusing. My hope is that as more people find out about the preposterous behavior that's going on in these universities and colleges and how people are, these are young people that don't have a fully formed frontal cortex and are about to enter into the world, and they're doing this with this ridiculous momentum of these silly ideas. And there's people that want to enforce that more and more, and that these people, some of them, are actually professors at the very college where this is going on. I mean, that to me is one of the weirder aspects of it, and one of the things that scares people a lot is the idea that these people are going to live in these insulated environments, and then they're going to go and get their graduate degree, and then they're going to start teaching. And they're going to go right back with these same ideas in this insulated environment and never really go out into the world, where the marketplace of ideas has roundly rejected a lot of these notions that they're trying to pass off through logic and debate and actual discourse, not through shutting people down because of the color of their skin or lack of or excess amount of melanin. I mean, that's not how human beings should be behaving in 2017. It's just not. So when you see it so evident and so prominent and so so commonplace in universities and colleges. There's so many people on the outside looking in at this rather, are baffled and for the first time enraged.
Well, I think what you just described is exactly how this happened. The fact that the critical race theorists and the postmodernists are, third generation by now. And so this has matured into a movement that wishes to reformulate the world according to what it thinks it understands. But it's so confused about the nature of reality that it's just it's hard to even describe how preposterous it looks as it tries to emerge.
Because they go from being at the university to eventually teaching at that same university.
Well, it doesn't have to be the same one, but they come to maturity inside a field where these things sound reasonable, and then they go on to teach them to students. And so, the intensity and absurdity grows with each of those generations. And I think had they been exposed to the real world in the context of having to make sense in order to make a living, which, I'm not a big fan of capitalism, but nonetheless, just even having to interface with the world and make enough sense to get by would enforce a kind of mental discipline that is not evident here.
Yeah, mental discipline is a good way to describe it too. I mean, it seems like the idea that not only should there not be a level playing field, but that you should force a playing field that's not level.
Permanently not level.
Yeah. It's crazy, and obviously the world agrees, or a good percentage of it.
It's not even, I'm sure there's some bias in who writes and who doesn't, but I would actually imagine there'd be some pressure if you were really angry with me out in the world to write to me. And I don't know, I must have 1,000 highly supportive emails, all kinds of emails from amazing, interesting people all over the world now, and a few angry emails, and I think I don't know if it's 3 or 4 angry emails, and 2 of them come from inside the college.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them must be some of the professors that realize that this is a fucking sinking ship that's on fire. Like, you can't keep doing it. Like, this is not going to end well.
You can't double down. That's what they keep doing.
They keep double down. So what happens now? Like, how do you just wait for the dust to settle? Do you?
I don't know.
This has never happened to you before. So this is a very unique moment in your life.
Completely.
How old are you?
I'm 48.
So your whole life,
well,
essentially.
We should be careful there. There have actually been nothing like this has ever happened. This is the intensity of this, the national nature of it is all completely unprecedented, and it's pushing both me and my wife to our absolute limit of what we can do, just even fielding all of the stuff that is coming across our desks.
Watch out, vehicle on shoulder ahead.
That said, there is a precedent when I was a freshman in college, and I've had battles inside my field, and so what I would say is that when one has deep principles and one acts based on those principles, irrespective of I guess what would be called optics, you find yourself the one against the many repeatedly, just by virtue of the way the world works. And so this is without precedent in terms of the magnitude of it, but it's not the first time that I've found that just simply proceeding from principles that I'm pretty sure are right based on careful work has resulted in something boiling over in some amazing fashion.
Have you explored the possibility of teaching outside of a university or college structure? Have you explored the possibility of using new media, whether it's online video, audio, text, in terms of like publishing things and maybe having a Patreon page or something along those lines?
Well, I'd love to do it actually, because at the moment, the college has been a great place to do this because of the unusual teaching model, but it's becoming less fun. I mean, even if I wasn't at the center of this firestorm, the rules that are being instituted and the diversity sensitivity training that's coming and all of those
and what
things.
Is that? What do they make you do?
Well, they haven't done it yet.
You need to learn how to not be racist.
Right.
So they have to assume that you have these issues in the first place.
Right.
So first of all, why would they ever hire you if they thought that you were discriminatory? And then second, like, what is going to be done? Has it ever been proven ever that you can change people through compulsory remapping of their brain, an anti-racist, some sort of what is it? It's like a 2-day seminar thing? Like
something like that. Well, the thing is, none of this makes any sense, because let's say this. Let's say that all white people pick up racism from their environment developmentally. They can't help it. So we know you're a racist. Okay? Well, if we know you're a racist, then what's the remedy? Okay, the remedy is going to be some sort of sensitivity training. Well, but if sensitivity training works, then how do you know I haven't already had experiences that have done this for me? How do you know? Right.
Right.
So the whole thing is illogical, and frankly, I think it's punitive. I think the real purpose is we would like to lecture you. And,
Yeah.
So like that. In answer to your question about have I considered working outside the college system, I've considered it. The real question is how to operationalize it so that I don't strand my family, because Evergreen provides a very high quality of life. We live well in a beautiful setting, but it doesn't pay well, so we haven't accumulated the resources where I can just cut the umbilical cord and go take this stuff to a different audience. So I would love to find a different way to do it.
Well, isn't there a way to do it in the meanwhile? Like, you don't have to leave one to do the other.
Well, that's certainly true, and I wouldn't be averse to starting something like that while teaching at Evergreen.
I really hope you do, because I think you have some really interesting ideas, and you're a very smart guy, and obviously your heart, your mind is in the right place, and it seems like before all this boiled over with this new president, things were going the way you would enjoy them going. This individualized attention, the freedom to teach anything you want. I mean, it sounds wonderful in the hands of the right person, and you
Right.
seem to be the right person.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I just feel like the whole idea of going...
Continue straight for 20 minutes to State Route 25 East, Cape Cod. Estimated time in traffic, 7 minutes.
going to a place and learning. I mean, it sounded like a great idea back when that was how it had to be done, but it doesn't take into account the wonderful internet that we all have. I mean, the ability that you have now with this platform, with the amount of attention that's on you right now to launch something. You're never going to have anything like this ever again in your life. Hopefully.
Yeah. From your mouth to God's ear.
You know?
Yeah, okay, well, I'll take that as a piece of advice. This is the moment to launch such a thing.
Listen, do it. I'll help you. I'll promote it. I'll tweet it. I'll put it on Instagram. I'll put it on Facebook. I'll let people know.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, it's just, I think that's the future. I think the future is people educating anybody, like anybody who wants it, whether you're, you know, here or there, or you don't have to be in a specific location. And I think that maybe a lot of this can be overcome if we don't have these groups of people that like live in these echo chambers and constantly circulate in these same groups that reinforce these opinions and experience all this confirmation bias that makes them believe that this is all correct and the rest of the world is just misinformed and don't understand. But clearly by that email, like it's a big problem is the staff itself.
Yeah. Say the staff. It's
Or whoever,
the administrators
administration.
and
Yeah.
some fact.
They're crazy.
They are crazy.
They're calling you alt-right or saying this is alt-right and that you're racist and misinformation. I mean, that's slander. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, well, it's slander. It's also, I think it's worth pointing out, kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, they should have something to back those claims up. Those are just empty claims.
They're beyond empty claims. I mean, you know, I'm a Bernie Sanders voter. If I'm alt-right, I mean, where are they?
Yeah, Tucker Carlson tried to say you were a Hillary supporter. You like,
I was like, no.
no.
What did you just say about me?
Oh, man, it just, have you thought about contacting an attorney?
I am getting offers, and people are contacting me saying I should.
You should. As long as they keep that guy as president, you should definitely contact an attorney. And if they're going to put shit like that on the internet, because for every person like me who reads it and goes, this is nonsense, there's going to be a possibility of someone reading it and go, oh, that Brett Weinstein guy's a racist. Oh, that Brett Weinstein guy's alt-right. Oh, he uses misinformation in the media, and he's actively sought out this attention, and he's doing this to damage the relationship with the schools. He's doing this out of spite because he was called out for being a racist, and we have this professor who says he's a racist, and she said it to his face, and he didn't defend himself. I mean, all that kind of shit, that's how it boils over.
Yep. No, I mean, it's clearly justified, and they won't listen to anything else. I've tried everything else, so maybe that's just simply the answer.
I really hope you do something alternative. I really do, because I think if someone like you, who has this unprecedented platform where you have been launched into the public eye, because so many people are outraged about this. I know you were on my friend Dave Rubin's show, and you know, I'm sure there's going to be 1,000 other requests after people hear this as well. People don't want this to be the case anymore, and they want to do whatever they can to stop that. And they also want to support people that are brilliant people like yourself that have wonderful ideas that we would like our kids to learn if they do go to college somewhere. We'd like people to be educated in these unique facets of the world and have a platform where you could teach evolutionary biology and unhindered and unshackled by this fucking nonsense that you're dealing with.
Garbage. Yeah, well, it's a great idea, and you know, I don't know. It may be that the university system is so encrusted with this stuff at this point that it can't be freed.
That's what Jordan Peterson thinks. And
that
I've
right?
talked to quite a few other professors that think that as well. Gad Saad, he believes it as well.